Asian women are bad drivers. I agree.
Ooh, Asian fetish.
Well, I didn't experience this much. They joke about me, like, you're Asian, you're supposed to get an A. I was like, no, I'm Chinese, so I got a C. So, oh yeah, wow, this is Chinese eat dogs.
Hey guys, I'm Sara Jane Ho and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in this video, we are going to talk about Asian stereotypes. Are they true? Are they false? Or do they meet somewhere in the middle? For instance, all Asians are skinny. I mean, that's so obviously false. I mean, case in point, I've definitely had my fat days. Why have I decided to do this mini-series? Well, because since COVID, there has been a massive rise in hate crimes against Asian people in the West, from New York to SF, and everywhere in between, including Atlanta. In fact, anti-Asian hate crimes increased in 2020 by 150%, mostly in New York and LA. Racist attacks happen when people don't actually take the time to get to know the other culture and instead rely on stereotypes. So in this video, we want to help all of you out there better get to know real Asian people. And why do I say we? Because in today's episode, I have a special guest. We is me and my friend Zhu Chao.
Hi, everyone.
Who just entered the screen. And the reason I chose Zhu Chao is because I feel that, Chao, you really represent, like me, the meeting of East and West.
Definitely, yeah. I think, my personal experience really combines a lot of things. Myself has been living in more than 7 countries, more than 10 cities in the past couple of years.
Also, mainly because we both straddle, when I talk about East and West, it's really mostly China and the US, right? So tell us a little bit about, you're from Wuhan.
Yeah, the famous city right now.
And so what year did you leave Wuhan to go to America?
2007. I went to liberal arts college at the beginning.
At DePauw University.
At DePauw University.
And what was that like?
You mean the campus?
Well, I mean just the cultural experience, going from Wuhan to...
Oh yeah, it's a shock. So I found myself, going to a school in the middle of the cornfield. I arrived at a town of around 8,000 people, which I come from a city of Wuhan of 11 million people. So the contrast there was huge. Like when I got there, I was like, really? This is where I'm gonna end up for my few years of study? So it was a shock. Secondly, the shock is the diversity of the community. Well, I grew up in a community without diversity. Like in Wuhan, everybody, almost everybody there Chinese.
Looks the same, right?
Looks the same, yeah.
Same in Hong Kong, everybody's Han Chinese.
Yeah, Hong Kong is more diverse than Wuhan for sure. When I first arrived, it's new. Like I have no one else besides the owner of the Chinese restaurant to speak Chinese to. The whole class is full of people who have never been to Asia. And I'm the only one who has, okay, great. Let me tell you where I come from. I come from China. And the question is, do you play Kung Fu? Is Tokyo your capital? Or are you guys close to Bangkok? Like some question like that will often come to me. Later, I just give up. I say, yeah, I play Kung Fu.
No. Okay, so I just want to jump on that bandwagon that you said stereotypes, right?
Yeah.
Stereotypes, Asians playing Kung Fu. I left Hong Kong when I was 14 to go study at Philips Exeter. I was in, the States for a good 10 years along the East Coast. That's when I really learned about Asian stereotypes.
Yep.
And so today, my team write down some of the biggest Asian stereotypes, and they're actually folded up in this Chinese-looking porcelain bowl.
Right.
And we're going to take turns pulling them out.
Okay.
And telling the other if we think that it's right,
okay,
if it's wrong, or if it's in between.
Sure, of course. Wow, I'm nervous. Okay.
All right, read it out.
Asians are bad at sports.
Unless
it's martial arts. Great. Yeah. I think people take 2 sports outside of martial arts, which is ping pong and badminton.
Oh, okay. So it's kung fu, ping pong, and badminton.
Yeah, probably that's what we're good at.
But why is that a stereotype? I guess I would think that maybe it's because we're so academic, right? Like Chinese, there's all this thing about Confucianism, which is about being a scholar.
I think sports, particularly for teenagers, is considered as a way of future professionals instead of interest or personal interest. But in the US, usually you do not choose in between these two. You can keep that as a way to become a professional in the future, but at the same time, it could just be a personal interest. But in China, if you want to be a professional athlete, usually you stop studying. You go to those professional schools to become a trainee of there. I was in the middle of the choices in between these two. I play ping pong for, stereotype, but I played ping pong for 5 years semi-professionally. So at the age of 12, I was asked to choose. Because in China, most of the athletes you see on the Olympic, they're professional athletes. But in the US, a lot of time they are still college students. They could be just like, I sponsor myself. I just want to do this. So the only place people can see you from the global point of view would be the Olympic.
Right,
So
right.
the stereotype come from they didn't see enough examples. So I think for that it's changing because I knew a lot of friends who actually went to US. They joined the Division 3 athlete team.
Oh yeah, especially in college and high school. It's about being well-rounded, so being good at academics and at sports. But in China, it's more like, okay, you choose. You're gonna be the best.
You're gonna be one or the other. Yeah.
That's right. All right, so the second one. I'm gonna pull this out. Ooh, Asian fetish.
Well, I didn't experience this much. Well, in a fraternity, it's interesting. As the only Asian guy in the entire history of 125 years of my frat house.
You broke history.
And some girls would be interested to talk to me because they didn't know anyone from Asia. The only one they know probably is the Asian American kids in their school. So sometimes when they see me, they feel like, oh, it's new. I want to talk to some new guys, know something new about his background, his culture. Yeah, the Asian fetish
for girls, Asian girls,
particularly in the big cities.
Right, and so when I left Hong Kong to go to America to study, and I was I was coming from a place where I'm part of the majority, like you, right? Everybody kind of looks like me.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, I'm gonna go to America. Like, will they be racist against me? I'm gonna look so different. And I went there and I was like, wow, Asian girls have it really good. So.
Well, yeah, you're right. Especially in the fraternity. So for Asian culture, we're more conservative and we don't really go out and just talk to anyone we are interested in. We'll probably just sit there and let them feel like I'm interested in you, then mutually approach to each other. That's more like our pattern. But in the Western culture, particularly in the US, in American culture, if you want to talk to some girl, you just go ahead and talk to them.
Oh yeah, you just go
in there. Jump on it.
I actually really like that. I kind of miss that here in China. Nobody really talks to me.
Well, in China, you call that bad guys. Call that's a playboy, right?
That's true.
But so there's a judgmental thing there to say you don't do things like that in China.
And that's true. I remember when I graduated from Georgetown and I moved to New York in 2007, and I really loved that pickup culture. I mean, you'd go to like dim sum and you'd get picked up.
Someone got approached, yeah.
Yeah, you'd be grocery shopping, like whatever, at CVS, and somebody's picking you up, and and it could be a guy chatting to you or girl chatting to you, and I would feel really open-minded and be really just like, I made a lot of friends that way. And then here in Shanghai, in fact, just a few weeks ago, I was out leaving a restaurant with a girlfriend, and this guy came over and was like, oh, do you need a ride? And I just ignored him. And I told my friend, I was like, 神经病. I was like, he's got a mind problem. Like, ignore him. And so with Asian fetish, what is it that makes the Asian woman so fetishized in Western culture?
I would guess, because I'm not a Caucasian guy, but I'm guessing. I talked to a lot of my friends about it. First of all, it's the exotic feeling, for sure. They think they are just different from the girls they used to date around them. Secondly, Asian girls tend to be more submissive in terms of the way they communicate. So in the West, particularly in the US, the word girl is not necessarily equals to tender. For them, it's like new experience as well. Exotic plus the submissive feeling that they get, that they feel like that they're more satisfied in that way. Thirdly, I think it's more about a feeling of conquering from one culture to the other. I mean, I'm not trying to stereotype that to a deeper meaning, but for me, it's the same. I want to feel like, as a guy who win the heart of a girl. They use this way to prove some sort of like the personal charisma in terms of, oh, I'm attractive to another culture. I feel confident about myself. I talk to my, white friends, particularly in the frat house. They often ask me, say, hey, can you just bring your Chinese friend to our party?
Your Chinese female friends?
Female friend, particularly.
I was Chinese girls?
I was like, why? She's not even that good looking. Then I get another feeling is the standard of good looking is absolutely different from my eyes and versus their eyes. So I was like, oh, sure, if they want to talk to you, go ahead. I can bring them over. We can get a party. You can join us. Or I can join your party too. So.
And that's really true. The Asian girls that white guys find hot are very different from the Asian girls that Asian guys find hot, right?
Yeah, it's just different.
Like Lucy Liu. I mean, don't get me wrong. Lucy Liu is a beautiful woman.
She's pretty. She's really pretty.
But is she pretty in the eyes of Chinese audience.
Yeah, depends on like what type of standard you're using.
Because, I mean, for the Chinese audience, she'd be too dark. She's not fair enough.
Too aggressive in terms of, you know,
In her look,
in her makeup. Yeah, things like that. You know, in China, the typical beautiful girl would consider as a soft female.
Definitely not me. I'm not soft.
Well, I'm not favoring that type of girls, but yeah, I mean, I'm just talking about the general standard of what is beauty. But that's a hard topic.
Next one.
Wow, I feel like the topic gonna be Asian women are bad drivers. I agree.
Oh, no!
My mom is a horrible driver.
Okay, guys, this is going to be controversial, but I agree too.
Well,
And I mean, I'm a very good driver, but whenever I'm behind a car, or I'm, stuck behind a car that's bad, that's clearly the driver has no idea what they're doing, I'm like, oh, must be a woman. Is it a woman?
the thing is, I think there are two words here. So Asian and a woman. So there's a stereotype as Asian, they're bad drivers.
That's true.
In general.
Are they?
Not necessarily. But the one thing that when you consider what is bad driver, let's define that first. Like I would say it's because a different way of driving. Because in Asia, most people drive in the city. So there are not that many freeways. So the way we drive essentially is quite different from the way you drive in the freeways in the US. In the freeway in the US, 80 miles, 100 miles, that's possible. Particularly for some highways, you can drive up to 120. But here, 120 equals to 140 kilometers. There is no way you can drive that in the city. In China, in the city, around 60 kilometers, which is around 40 miles to 50 miles, would be the normal, what we consider fast. So that would be the time that when the drivers actually from Asia first come to the US, it's hard. Like for me, it's hard. I drive for like 14 years, 15 years when I first arrived in the US, and also just different way of driving. So I think that's one thing. The other thing is for the second word, women. I think this is stereotype. I took some ride from some ladies of my lady friend who drive really fast.
That would be me.
They're like the more brave than me. But sometimes when they're doing multitasking, some ladies are more cautious than the guys. So they look more nervous. When they get more nervous, when they get more cautious, when someone is barking on the back, they probably will make some mistake. So that's sometimes when you see, I still feel like it doesn't really matter where they come from in the US. I think it's also because the culture-wise, people in the US are more adventurous taking. But here, people are like, you have to drive safe.
So again, it's a cultural thing,
It's a
right?
cultural thing.
It's a cultural thing. All right, the next one that's coming out. All Asians look like they're 12. Agree or disagree or in between?
Maybe 18.
I want to be forever 18.
Yeah, there's a brand called Forever 21.
Forever 21.
Yeah, I mean, Asian people have better skin.
Thank you.
Yeah, and they usually age slower.
Thank you.
They're better at making up. In my point of view, particularly if you see some girls from Japan, from Korea, I mean, right now from mainland China, and also from Hong Kong too, right?
Hong Kong, we don't really wear makeup.
Really? Okay, maybe I live.
Maybe the girls you hang out with.
I'm sorry. I work in Central. I live around Central, so probably the people I work with, in the financial industry. So
okay.
wearing makeup is sort of like a respect.
That's true. It's good etiquette. It's good etiquette.
That's professional manner in that way. All my friends in the US, particularly Caucasian friend or non-Asian friend, let's put it that way, they have no idea how to judge the age of Asians. Yeah. We look the same to them. It's the same way around. And sometimes I even mistakenly take some of my friends' wives as their mother. I said, oh, your mother look young. Oh, that's my wife. Oh, sorry. It happens because, it's not because we look young. We look the same way as we look. Asian age the way Asian age. But it's different from the, kind of like Western way of, how they judge it. When they're looking at a 40-year-old lady here, they probably couldn't tell them from a 28-year-old. Mm-hmm. They could feel like they're the same.
And there's one key to that, which is called SPF. And it's something that us Asian women religiously apply, myself included.
Oh, Asian glow.
Asian glow. Do we agree? Yes, no? Do you get Asian glow?
No.
Actually, I don't either, and I can hold my liquor, so I look exactly the same. I don't get red.
Yeah, I mean, if you go to Tibet, you probably will have it. But if you go to the normal city like Shanghai or...
Wait, why Tibet? Because the elevation's high?
Yeah, the sunshine is, the burning is different, you know.
No, but it's from drinking alcohol. Asian glow is from drinking alcohol.
Same thing, like, you know, you just stay there, easier for you to get Asian glow. It's easier. Like I don't get that here in Shanghai, but I get that in Tibet.
Oh,
it's easier for you. It's easier for you to get that. But it's not necessarily like there. If you go to UK, British people get that more. One beer, they
one
can get
beer,
that,
and they get totally
get drunk, and you can see them. You feel like, did you just drink a case of beer, or what happened to you? Yeah.
But I have to say, I do actually feel really bad for Asian friends that do get that Asian glow because it just looks so obvious. Anyway, okay, next one. I'm gonna take this out. And...
Asian moms, tiger moms. That depends. I think that stereotype comes from the Asian group in the US. So in China, they're less tiger mom because essentially there are people like peaceful mom here.
Yeah.
Usually you will see more mom, like normal mom here. But if you're talking about the mom in the US, sure, you know, they're probably highly educated. They want the next generation to be more successful. But to admit that Asian family focus a lot more on education than the Western ones, that's for sure the fundamental. But in Asia, I think it's less obvious than in the US.
That actually really makes sense. That, you know, if you're an immigrant and you go over and you're trying to make it, right? You come from, then you totally put all the pressure on your kids to then make it. I always stayed in Hong Kong, but my mom was still a tiger mom. Unfortunately, whenever I took a test, if I got 90%, the first thing was, where's the other 10%? I don't know if your parents were like that. Maybe they were more chill.
They're more chill.
Yeah. Oh, you're so lucky.
Yeah, I mean, Hong Kong is different because Hong Kong is a small island. Well, it's a few small islands.
Yeah.
And the population there, the intensity of competition there was completely different than most of the city around the world. There, you see a lot of story of super rich people. If you want to vertically climb up the social ladders, you have to work more, right? The school has ranking. You know, in the school, you have ranking. Then
the school has ranking. In the school, there's a student ranking.
Exactly. So what happened is, when you see the ranking every day, it's hard for you not to be a tiger mom. But if you live in a city like Beijing or Shanghai, well, let's put it that way, it's a second-tier city, like where I come from, Wuhan.
Is Wuhan a second-tier city? I guess so.
I guess so, yeah.
I thought they call it new first-tier. No?
Well, it depends on how you look at it. I mean, Wuhan right now is worldwide famous. Yeah, so a city like Wuhan, there are more people who are more settled. They're more like, okay, yeah, my kid could be cool and chill in my city. That's fine. They live close to the family. The whole family can spend time together. They're not asking the kid to become the world leader.
Right. Like, they don't have to go to Harvard.
But in Hong Kong, wow, if you hear all those stories, naturally your mom will become more competitive.
Luckily, I went to international school in Hong Kong, which is considered easier than the local schools.
Yeah.
But my mom was still a crazy, crazy tiger mom.
Oh yeah, wow. This is Chinese eat dogs.
Do Chinese eat? I think they're delicious.
I don't.
I'm kidding.
I don't.
I don't either.
Yeah, I don't. But in some certain part of China, they do have the so-called tradition of having dogs a cuisine. Let's put it that way. But
you make it sound so fancy.
A cuisine. It is part of their tradition. In some certain part of the southern Guangxi, like Guangxi or
Canton, in Guangdong
province. But they do not only eat dogs. They eat almost everything.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
and actually, there's a running joke that if there were a famine, and this is a Chinese joke, okay, that if there were a famine, the Cantonese would be the ones to survive because we eat everything. And yes, Hong Kong people come from but you're right, they eat everything. And you know what? I mean, the French eat horse meat and frogs.
Yeah, I'm Chinese, eat frogs too. Let's take something. Caramel. Yeah.
Which one?
Caramel.
Camel?
Yeah. Like,
who eats camel?
In Egypt.
How does it taste?
I never did it, but I heard about it. I was like, wow, is that eatable? But the thing is, different culture have different definition what is eatable or not. Don't stereotype that. You know, there are 1.3 billion people in China.
Yeah, and only like...
There could be 10 million people eat it, but the rest of
which is like a fraction of a fraction.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't think...
I like that. Okay, Wuhan virus.
Wow, good question. Perfect people to ask.
I know. So how does it make you feel when You know, I mean, I was skiing in Switzerland, in Switzerland, a year ago when
I was there too.
Oh, I was in Megève. Where
I
were
was
you?
in Davos.
We're truly international Chinese people. And all of a sudden, the newspapers were saying, you know, Wuhan virus. You know, we were from Hong Kong, so we were the only Asians there. And I remember when we got on the ski van from the hotel, the other people, like the Europeans, were like, "Oh, where do you come from? Do you come from Japan?" And we're like, yeah.
As a Wuhanese, okay, I was born and raised there. The initial impression of hearing this word Wuhan virus definitely is not comfortable. Because you can say Wuhan virus in another way as Wuhan was the first city to become the victim of this virus.
Well, or the first city that discovered it, because actually I think they found in sewage pipes that it was even in 2019 they found COVID in Italy, in the state or wherever other places. So how does it make you feel when Trump is going around saying Chinese virus?
First of all, Trump is not a typical politician in my eyes.
What is he in your eyes?
Reality show kind of guy, you know.
You're fired.
Yeah, you're fired. Apprentice was the first one I watched when I first know about him. You know, Trump was one of the guy who was, you know, out of the normal, I would say normal expectation for the politicians. Usually the politicians would be the ones who consider more about what they say. But Trump definitely was not that type.
Trump, you're no politician.
Yeah. When Wuhan was shut down, actually my father was working on the frontier to combat the virus. He was the one to shut down the whole city. One of the
Wow, is your dad a government official?
He works with the government, so he helped to close the city, to shut down the city. So basically at that time, no one actually know what it is. There's no even such a word called COVID. So when people actually came up with the word say Wuhan virus, I sort of understand where that come from, because that's where usually people name the virus for its origins. The way as Wuhan people, particularly as Chinese people, to listen to this word is not comfortable. It actually gives you a feeling of discriminated. When I first talked about this in March 2020 in the US, people show more concern and care than scare to me. Like, how is your family? Is everything okay there? Because in a way, they don't think this is going to be associated with them. They think this is, I mean, I got that. You know, in a way, they feel like, oh, this is an Asian disease. This is not happening in the US. When I first actually,
I understand that because SARS in 10 years prior was really mainly contained in Asia.
In Asia. And then it's not. Then later, I think in March or April, particularly in April in Hong Kong, there are a few cases that Wuhanese actually, they coincidentally get the disease, they get the virus, and they get sick in Hong Kong. Wow, that's the time when you talk about where you come from, you say Wuhan, people gonna step back a few, meters, just say, hey, did you go back home recently? Is there any of relative who visited you recently? That's something that you feel like absolutely uncomfortable. And another thing is, from my understanding, because I studied history in my college, one thing that we study is poli-sci. Wuhan virus was used as a politician campaign to battle with China. Let's put it that way. In Taiwan, if you read the news in Taiwan, they use this, they're aggressively using this word more than the US, just because they want to use this as a propaganda in a politician campaign. Later on, people use COVID-19 more than anything else. And the Wuhan virus kind of fade away.
But one thing that makes me curious, and for any Spanish viewers of you out there, how do you Spaniards feel about the term Spanish influenza?
Exactly.
Drop me a comment below, because I want to know. All right, the next one.
All Asians play violins or piano.
I play the piano.
I don't.
Or violin?
No, I don't.
Oh my god, you're a bad Asian.
No, I play trumpet.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Piano was one of the most typical instrument or, things Asian girls would love to learn, or they were asked to learn when they're young. That's what
Trust me, I never asked to learn piano. Piano was forced on me by my tiger mother.
Most of the kids would say, oh, I play professional piano for level 10. That's something that almost you will see that on the CVs or resumes often when you see the college graduate from Asia. So I think, yeah, it's true, but more piano than violin. Violin is not that common, but piano for sure.
Oh, piano for sure.
For sure, yeah. How come Asians are so skinny?
Oh.
I'm not.
I...
You are.
sometimes.
I love eating, so when I eat,
I love eating too.
But that's the thing. When I eat a lot, I do exercise. But when I eat more than I can exercise all my energies, I gain weight.
So look, Asians are just like any other people out there. It's calories in, calories out. Okay,
Yeah.
If you eat more, you get fat. If you eat less, you get skinny. And our last but not least,
I'm nervous about the last one. All Asians are good at math. Wow, this is something
true, false, or in between?
False.
I'm
not.
Not either.
I'm not.
We're bad Asian.
Otherwise, why should I study history?
Why else would I major in English literature?
Yeah, it's true. The fundamental education system for math is absolutely superior here in Asia. For us, middle school kids, they got more trainings than probably the college kid in the US. But this is just because the nation have different education system. It's not because our race is different versus the other, but just because we got more training. When people see enough samples, they tend to generate a conclusion that, because I see 10 samples out of, 9 samples out of 10, they're pretty good at math. So I think all Chinese or all Asians are good at math. Not necessarily. Again, there are 1.3 billion people in China. I'm one of those who are not good at it. I think I got a C. And I was like, they joke about me, like, you're Asian, you're supposed to get an A. I was like, no, I'm Chinese, so I got a C.
All right, guys, so I hope you had fun seeing our Asian stereotypes and breaking them down and, which ones we agree with, which ones we disagree with, so you can understand what real Asians are about. And I think, Zhu Chao, how about we leave everybody with 2-3 takeaways that can help the world be a little less racist?
A few things that I think is useful for me personally. First, to respect everyone. Everyone is different. Everyone has their own way of living. Everyone has their own culture, their own background. Even for the people from same culture, could have completely different life experiences. So for me, is to respect everyone. I think is the fundamental way to avoid the racist thing. Secondly, to be a good listener and then to be able to listen to others' story and try to understand more why they are becoming who they are today and how they become the way they are living today. I think the lastly but not the least is there are enough people out there. Don't make conclusion just by looking at 1 or 2 of them or 10 of them or 20 of them. There are 1.3 billion people in China, so you can't say I met 100 Chinese guys, 100 Chinese girls. I know how all Chinese behave. It's the same way, the other way around. You say, I know how American look like. That's wrong. I think if you're doing the 3 things together, I think this will be highly likely you will be able to avoid the racist things.
All right, guys. So that is respect other people, be a good listener, and
don't make conclusion.
Don't make conclusions
by just a few samples.
Although Asian women are bad drivers. All right, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in today, and make sure you subscribe to my channel, like this video, comment below, and stay tuned for the next episode. Bye!
See you!
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll be posting a new video each week who have tips and tricks that I think will help all of us lead a better life.